You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast, empowering musicians with strategies for a sustainable career.
Gorden Campbell, welcome to the Career Musician.
In the house. Thanks for having me, bro.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
man. Thanks for doing
Appreciate
it.
you. Yeah, man. Appreciate you for asking.
Of
Little
course.
old me.
Come on, man. Get out of town.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad we did it on Zoom because now we can see studio to studio.
Exactly. I need to get a couple more guitars, but yeah.
Well, and likewise, I have zero drums, but that
Oh, okay.
that is the beauty of knowing people like you that can just handle the drums.
Exactly. Same. And the same goes to you.
There you go.
Whatever guitar needs I got, you got it.
Exactly, man. Speaking of which, we do need to collaborate on something musically, man.
Yeah, for sure.
For
sure. Yeah.
been a long time.
Because you can play. I like playing with people that can play. So yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And ditto.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So okay, I want to tell this little story.
Mhm.
We initially met in person. I knew who you were before I moved here. I'm originally from New York, but I came from Nashville.
Right.
I knew who you were, but I met you at Cafe Cordial
Yep.
on Ventura Boulevard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they used to have jams there all the time, right?
Every night, pretty much every night, except for maybe Monday night.
Yeah.
I think they were closed on Mondays, but every other night it was somebody playing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss that place. I miss it because we could just, on the way home, I would just pop in. I wouldn't even know who was playing. I knew somebody good was usually playing, so,
Right.
yeah,
That was like the LA staple, right? That was one of the joints, man.
was there forever. I
Yeah.
think 30-something years.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was Cafe Cordial, Lavalley, Cozy's.
Cozy's, yep.
Yeah.
What else? There was another spot. What was it called? When I got here in '93, so
Okay.
it's on Ventura too. I can't think of the name now, but I just remember when I first got here, I'm driving up Ventura, and I'm like, that's Stanley Clark. Stanley Clark was standing outside on the street.
Oh,
So just getting here is like, oh my God, freaking Stanley Clark. So yeah.
That's funny, man, because when you first arrive in LA, that's right. As music nerds, as we all are, when you see your heroes just casually standing around, you're like, wait a minute, what?
On the street, yeah. Yo, I had one more like that, not to sidebar, but there used to be a baked potato in Pasadena, Colorado. And I was actually going to a club, like a club DJ, like looking for some girls or whatever. And for whatever reason, they weren't open that night. So I'm like, all right, let me just go peek my head, see who was in baked potato. It was David Garfield, Vinny Caliuta on drums, John Patitucci on acoustic, and I forget the trumpet player's name. He does a lot of movie scores now.
Was it Roy Hargrove? No.
No. I can't think of his name now. He does a lot of scores.
Oh, geez. I know. Oh, dang it. I know what you're talking about.
Mark Isham, maybe? I think it was Mark Isham.
Mark Isham. Yeah, Isham.
One of those.
Yeah.
It was somebody like that, but it was Vinny and Caliuta, and that was it. I was like, bruh, I'm never leaving this place. I'm staying in LA forever. Yeah. So, yeah, that's that LA. It could happen.
That's awesome. So, all right,
Yeah.
that's the Cafe Cordial story. Very similar. So we're there, and I was playing with somebody like as a. They asked me to play. I knew some cats here before I got here, which was great, by the way. And they asked me to sit in. No, they didn't. They asked me to play. So I played that night. So I had my rig, and I had this old Ibanez copy of a 335. I'm looking at it right here. I remember it vividly, right? So I'm there, I'm playing, and then we take a break, and then Jubu came in, and you and a bunch of other cats.
Yeah.
So the guy who hired me, I want to say maybe it was Kevin Flournoy, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
But a mutual friend,
Right.
he said, hey, man, we usually let cats sit in here. I was like, oh, by all means, please, use my rig. And Jubu was the first cat to come up. And, he just made me,
Yeah. He's Jubu.
Yeah, he made me speechless like I am right now. So, but anyway, I turn around and I look over and there's you, and I'm standing there. I was like, hey, you're Gorden Campbell. What's up, man? And you're like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? I said,
Yeah.
Man, let me buy you a drink. And you were like, yo, I'll take a Cape Cod. If I can,
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
I just remember buying you a drink at the jam.
That's so funny, man. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't say Long Island iced tea.
Oh man,
Cause
see?
that was one of my favorites for a long time.
There you go. Me too. And
Uh,
you're from out east, up north, northeast,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'm from Long Island myself.
Got you. Yep.
You're from Connecticut, right?
No.
No,
Well, I was born in New Haven, but I grew up in Newburgh, New York.
Newburgh, New
S-
York. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So just, 60 miles north of the city.
There
So,
you
but I
go.
was in the city a lot. I got a lot of family in Brooklyn, everywhere. Brooklyn, Queens, Yonkers, Bronx,
Nice.
the whole city is, yeah, my family's huge. So,
See, that's why you're so cool and down to earth. New Yorker, baby. Come on, East Coast.
yeah, all day. And as long as I've been out here, I still rep the East Coast.
Me too. That's
Yeah,
right. That's
for
right. All right.
sure.
So there's a lot of things I want to cover, but one of the things I want to talk about with you is I love how you built an awesome career as a sideman, quote unquote,
hmm hmm
playing in the studio and on tour for all these amazing artists and being a music director, But you also had the 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 nighttime life of being a producer, and a music creator in your studio,
Yep,
and then also you took on the role of being an artist and releasing conversations.
yep.
So, I want to talk about that whole process because I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to the idea of, hey, I can play really well, whatever instrument.
hmm
I've honed my chops. Now I'm going to go get gigs so I can earn a living. But at the same time, I know there's so much more to me than just a side person.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't mind starting, how did it all start for you? And
All right.
I know that's a loaded question, but
Yeah. I'm like, how much time you got? So, all right, I'll make it a long story short. But I started, like I said, I was born in New Haven, Connecticut, but I grew up in Newburgh, New York. I don't even know if I was a year yet when we moved from New Haven. I think I was probably under a year when we moved back to Newburgh. That's where my mom was from. So, yeah, I started playing at my grandfather's church. They told me I was 5. And then by the time, fourth grade, if you want to be in band, you pick an instrument. So I picked drums. I was already playing drums in church,
Right.
by that point. So I could already play drum set. I wasn't reading or anything at that point. But so yeah, did all that, went through high school playing, played through college. I went to Howard University in DC. So I played.
Nice.
And for me, coming up, I did everything music. Like I sang in the chorus, I sang in boys' glee. I was in charge of the gospel choir in high school, so I taught all the parts. I was teaching out. So
Wow.
I didn't technically direct, but I would teach the songs and play piano for the gospel choir.
Wow. So you're
Um,
divvying up the sections, teaching them their parts as you're playing. So see right there. So you had a good foundation in piano and music theory
yeah,
and knowledge of that. Yeah.
and like a lot of us, it started in churches. It started at my grandfather's church, playing drums first. But most pastors, their kids usually do all the music stuff or their offspring some type of way. So that was my mom's dad, and he had 13 kids, and out of 13, I say 6 of them actually were like organists at their church in Brooklyn. My aunt was in Massachusetts and Springfield. I had my whole family, and 2 or 3 uncles were still in Newburgh, so they would play and I play drums. And back then we didn't have bass and guitar and all. It was organ and drums, Church of God in Christ, New York style. Um,
Kojic, baby. Wow.
yes. So I started playing. One of my uncles, my uncle Cleve, started showed me a couple chords on keys,
Yeah.
and then I would play the piano. We had an upright, so I would hide behind the piano and be playing while my uncle's playing. If one of the other little kids is on drums, and at some point they stopped coming, like they were working or whatever, and they was like, "You're gonna have to." They called me Junie. Junie, you're gonna have to get on the organ, and I was like, I don't know. I play the drums, but the organ, I don't know how to play the pedals. They was like, you just got to get on. Like we need somebody to play for service. So I finally got on, played my couple chords, started figuring out the pedals, and I was probably in 7th grade, maybe
Damn. Talk
seventh,
about
eighth
being
grade.
thrown into the fire, man.
Yes, but it was my family. Even
Yeah.
the whole church wasn't my family, but we were family because I grew up. As my grandfather's pastor, so I ended up playing organ there. And
Wow.
then when they would come, I just get back on the drums. There's always a bunch of drummers at church. The little kids, it's always a drummer, but it's no everybody can't play keys, so I literally got thrown in. So, but from there, I went to Howard, played in band, played jazz band, same thing, gospel choir. I had a marching band scholarship, so I played drums in marching band.
Nice.
Um, yeah, just all
So
through.
your rudiments and all that stuff, you were just crushing that stuff. You got a scholarship to Howard for that. I mean, you got to be, the upper echelon.
The funny thing, I wasn't even tripping off marching band. I was like, I wanted to be in the jazz band. Howard, their band used to do albums every year. So one of my cousins was from Silver Spring, Maryland, and he would show me, he had all of these records, and I would look at him like, oh man, look at that. And I'm in high school, like, so.
Right.
But marching band gave me the scholarship, and I marched in high school for 3-4 years. So
Okay.
I was already in it. Of course, it was a culture shock because I did the drum and bugle corps, heel toe, match grip, and Howard, nope, you got a sling on your snare, your knee is up, 90 degrees is a totally different thing. We had the twirls were totally different. So, but it was cool. But yes, for rudiments and chops, yes. And yeah.
That's such a discipline, all that physical movement and those regiment, the way they do it, right? So,
yeah.
So
yep. And what really helped me was I came in on snare drum, and at Howard, back then we didn't do double strokes. You know how double stroke, you let the stick bounce.
Yeah.
Everything was stroked. Every double stroke was like da 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 da. So my chops was like coming out of college. My chops was crazy because they said the concept was, when you let it bounce, it gets sloppy. When you got 6 or 8 snare drums in a football field and with all the bouncing off, so to keep it super clean, we were literally stroking, like all the double strokes and everything was like, we had to stick them. So I mean, so it was pretty crazy.
So your sticking technique, like, you know how you guys do like a fulcrum where, like you said,
Yeah.
so you can't let it do that then. You have to keep it still?
On snare drum. On the snare drums, we had to hold the stick tight, and everything was everything was stroked. So it helps your chops. Like, you have chops after a season of playing like that.
Wow. That's
yeah. So then I from there was a group called Shy that went to Howard. And our fine arts building, the basement was where all the practice rooms were. So the drummers were the only ones that we had our actual own private, because we had to bring our kits to the school. So we all had our own room. But me, Chris Dave, a guy named Mark Prince, a guy named Aaron Walker, we were the drummers. So we all had our own private rooms, but all the rest of the rooms were just open with pianos. So groups would be down there practicing. Tank, the singer Tank, used to be down there. That's how I know Tank. He used to be at Howard when I was a student playing the piano, because it was open to anybody could just walk in and go down there at that point. And there was a piano in each room. So Shy was one of them groups that would be in there harmonizing 4-part harmony, and they would always walk by. And one of the guys was in marching band, so they knew me. And they actually, when Shy got their deal, Chris Dave was gonna do the gig. He got mint condition the same exact time. So Chris Dave is the one who was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to go with Shy." Shy moved to L.A. and they brought the band all from Howard. Raymond Angry was in that band, and we rehearsed in L.A. and everything. So that was my move to L.A. working with Shy. But it's literally because Chris Dave got mint. He went to Minneapolis, and I came to L.A. And both of us were the 2 drummers for the A band at Howard. So we both left at the same time.
Dude,
it was pretty
that
out.
is nuts, man.
Yeah, it was pretty dope.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I came out here, and that was the beginning. And I just started meeting people, and they had us like at the Oakwoods over here. So we had a car.
Yes.
After rehearsal. Yes.
Right down the street from my place. Yeah.
Exactly. So we would, after rehearsal, we was like, who's playing? Where can we go sit in? So at that point, Prince's Club, the Glam Slam was open. I think that's the first place we went. And what's crazy is we were rehearsing at a spot called Studio D in Burbank. Derek Organ was playing. I forget what artist it was, but Derek was a drummer, and Derek was like, "Yo, we're playing tonight, the Glam Slam. If y'all done, come down." So of course we're like, "Yes," and that's where we met. Basically, the band Tees. I don't know if you're hip to Tees, which is like Cornelius Mims, Derek Organ, Tommy Organ. What's his name? I just went blank on his name. He's gonna kill me too. Kipper Jones.
Okay.
That band was crazy. Rex Salas was in the band for a while.
Wow.
That whole crew was, so that was our first, and people knew Shy because Shy was blowing up. So they're like, "This is the Shy band." So they let us sit in, and that was like the beginning, 1993.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I like how a band brought you out. That's not like, that was the reason for coming out. That's not typical. A lot of cats just come out to try to make it, quote unquote. But you came out with the band. That's cool. Yeah.
I always say that's a plus.
Yes.
I already had a gig. I didn't come out here like that. Yeah. trying to find, and I didn't live here yet. I was still living in DC, but they just would put us in the Oakwood every time. We stayed in like 4 different Oakwoods over a whole year of '93. We came out in March and we were here till December. So even we would do like a 2 month tour. If we had 2 weeks off before the next whatever, instead of sending us back to DC, they would just bring us to the Oakwood and get us another rental car. So literally most of '93, I was here sitting in, and it was cool because people knew us because we played with Shy, and they were big at that point.
Mm.
They had sold like I think 3 million records at that point. So everybody was like, they were like the new hot, and we were the band. So because we were their band, people were messing with us.
Man,
You
that's
know,
dope. That is the
yeah,
perfect entry into the scene then.
man, dude. Because now I've been here long enough to have seen people come out here with nothing,
Yeah.
just trying to get seen everywhere, and people, and we were doing Arsenio Hall show. I think Jay Leno. We did like all the TV shows, like we were doing everything. So that was my introduction to being in LA and knowing people, and they know me when I walk in. That did help. That was a blessing for real.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
So at that point, did you just say, that's it? I got to move here. After 93, then you just
Yep.
made it
Yep.
happen.
Yep. Exactly. So I actually I had 1 semester left when I left. I left school. I had a semester left to graduate.
Oh, shoot.
So my mom, when I told her, she was like, "Just make sure you go back and graduate and get your, that whole parent thing."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "All right." So like I said, we came March to December. Then they finally sent us home the end of December, like Christmas time. We went home back to DC, and then January was a new semester. So January to May, I was in school. I graduated. 2 days after graduation, Shy was like, "Well, Arsenio's going off the air this week, but they want us to play again." So we came right. I graduated on the 12th, which is my birthday, May 12th. On the 14th, I was in LA again.
Bam. You
And
gotta
then
love that.
yeah, and then my friend Tim Carmen was
Yeah.
was like, yo, he was playing with Gerald Albright and Layla Hathaway. And Lan Richards, who also played in the marching band at Howard, he's a Howard, he was playing with them and he left to do something else. So he's like, Lan is leaving this Gerald Albright gig. If you want to do it, when you come out here with Shy, just stay with me. So I sent a tape of some shows to Gerald. They hired me, and I slept on Tim's couch probably for like 4 months. I literally slept on Tim's couch. But me, him, and a guy named Mark Walker, who also was in the Shy band, got the Gerald Albright gig too. So two of my homies was in the band. They just kind of. So when I came back, I did Arsenio with Shy, and then I just stayed at Tim's house, and then started working with Gerald Albright, and Layla was part of that thing. So it was Gerald and Layla, and
Right.
we were there. We were the band. That was '94,
I
and
love
that's when I got my apartment. I was
that.
like, okay,
You made it official.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. So I've been texting back and forth with Tim Carmen. He's
Oh,
gonna
really?
be on the show soon. I can't
Oh,
wait.
no. Yeah,
And I don't know Lan Richards, but I know of him, of course. I know a lot of the cats you've been talking about.
yeah,
What I love about the scene you're setting is, you were looking up to the cats who came before, the Stanley Clarks and the Vinnie Calutas and stuff. And then you came out here in the early 90s, and you were one of those A-list cats in that era, right?
mm-hmm,
And it literally just, it's like passing the baton
yeah,
generation to generation, different groups of people. So I love that you were in there and you did it. Now let me say this: you had a lot of friends, like you said, because of your association with them from school, and I think a lot of young people need to hear that. If you are going to college, just wait it out, finish it, don't quit. Right?
yeah,
Yeah,
big
'cause
time.
I know I quit.
Yes,
So I'm speaking from experience, and I love the
yeah,
fact that you went back and you just did it.
yep. And those connections, and I don't know if
Right.
you guys know about Howard. Howard is like family. I met somebody right here on the corner of Magnolia and Cahuenga, and they had a Howard thing. I'm like, ain't you? And they were young kids. They were well younger than me, and it's like family immediately. I never seen them before ever in my life. We followed on IG, and it's like now we keep anybody that went to Howard is like immediate connect. It's immediate family.
Yeah, see that.
They're like, yo, I do this. I'm doing film. You do music? Oh, can I, that network from school. And I know the Berkeley thing is like that too. That network is crazy.
Is strong,
Yeah.
and that makes all the more difference, man.
Yeah. And kids don't see it then. Like, for instance, when I was in school, in my building, P. Diddy, who we called Puffy then.
Yeah.
Alonzo Mourning, the basketball player, his girlfriend, he was at Georgetown, but his girlfriend, so I would see him every day. Like I saw Mercedes, I was like Alonzo, and super cool. Like these people I would see in the hallway, but we were all students. All the Bad Boy records, like everybody was in school. Some of the hitmen that produced for Diddy, Taraji Henson, Anthony Anderson from Blackish, all of us were students at the same time. So it's like if I would have known then that they were all gonna be like superstars at this point, I should have been nice. I mean, we were all cool,
Yeah,
but it's like to this day I don't know Diddy, and he lived in my building. I just knew at Howard he threw parties, and we knew that he was going up to New York, every week to work at Uptown as an intern or help out. But I didn't know, if I would have saw that, I would have been like kicking it with him. And
yeah.
so it's like in school, you never know who's gonna be that one that's like, and you're not being cool just because of that, but it doesn't hurt to know them, and that's gonna help you get, where you're trying to go.
But that's such a good lesson, man, because a lot of times I mean, I think some people will be able to relate to this. As creatives, a lot of times we're so introverted.
Yes.
We're so in our own little thing, and sometimes we might be scared or intimidated to reach out, or like you said, sometimes I don't know, we just don't reach out because we don't.
Right.
But we should, right?
We should.
We just gotta just get out of that.
Listen, everything that I've gotten, gig wise or anything, is from me just talking and somebody like, oh yeah, such and such, or me being in the right place at the right time. Most of the gigs that I've gotten from Earth, Wind and Fire, Jessica Simpson, all of them gigs, I was at a club playing, getting $100, and somebody saw me and was like, yo, can you do this? Can you, yo? So it's like especially in LA, but you just never know who's there. You never know. So it's always cool to be cool for one.
That's right.
Don't be fake, but be cool and just be a regular good person. And it just opens up doors. And you got to know your craft and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
it opened up so many doors, all the way down to like the car I bought, or if I'm looking for it, I told somebody like, yo, I need a new car. I want to get this new Benz, or I want to get a Benz. And my boy's like, yo, I got one. I got the guy. I'm gonna hook you up and hook me up. And I had 2 Benzes after that, and I didn't pay full price because I just was talking about it to people like, yo, I want to get this, or I need some this. It just putting it out in the atmosphere. It just always comes back.
It's a manifesting, right? We speak it,
Bruh,
and it is
listen.
a universal truth.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Work. Now
And
you
what's
said, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say what's crazy is a lot of that stuff I'm not thinking about it. I'm just an open book. I just talk. I probably talk too much. I give people information but it always go. They are. Oh man, my cousin is of this. Oh, your knee hurts. Oh, I got this. I got this doctor is gonna come. Just me talking. So I wasn't. Now I'm consciously manifesting stuff, but back then I was just talking.
Right.
But it's the same thing.
Man, I can relate to that so much because
Yeah.
my wife and I call it diarrhea of the mouth. Sometimes we're both guilty.
Listen.
Sometimes I just talk too much. I'm talking, and I think it's part of the culture that you're raised in, whomever it is and wherever it is. But I know for me in New York and my family, big Cuban Italian family, all we did was get together and talk all the time and hang out.
Yeah.
And even if you weren't a family member, if you were in the vicinity, you're still
Your family. Exactly. Come on
Right?
in.
And everybody's talking, everybody knows each other, and everybody knows perhaps too much business about the other people.
Yeah. Exactly.
It is that talkative nature. Yeah, I do like that.
It always works out for me. It's always somebody like, yo, I got such and such that, and I be getting hookups on all kind of stuff just from talking. I don't know why, but it just works. So
That's awesome.
yeah, man.
You said something else, and I love that too. You said about you playing $100 gig, and then you ended up getting work. And something I want to talk. I like to talk to musicians about is sometimes they're like, oh man, forget it. I don't leave the house for less than blah blah blah. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, hold on a minute,
Yeah.
right?
That's fake.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get to that point, but
But
yeah.
no, please expound. Yeah.
I've never really tripped off of that. And it's funny, I've had people clown me because I do stuff that I don't always have to do. Like I've left a big gig at like an arena to go play at a small church or something because I gave somebody my word that I was coming and I did it. But something else always comes out of that other thing. So at this point, I don't always feel like packing my drums up and going to play 4 hours for $100. I ain't really doing that. So I understand that side of it. But I never turn my nose up to anything. And I never tell people, don't ever call me for that no more. Because it might be a day where I need that $100. You know what I'm saying? So I want to leave that bridge open. So, but I never turn my nose up. And if I can see Vinny or Harvey Mason or one of them playing somewhere, if they can do it, my little self can do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not too big, you know. And a lot of times at this point, I turn on some of the other young homies that had just moved in town that really need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, well, I can't do it, but I got the homie. He's dope. And I'll vouch for him if they're dope. And they call him, and the people usually call back and say, thank you. We called him, and he was dope. Thank you. So it's helping other people, too. So I don't want to close. I don't want people to not call me because they think I'm going to do it. I'd rather them call me, and I have the choice to be like, nah, I can't do it today. Call me next time, you know.
And that is the way.
Yeah.
So I want to break that down because the buddy
Mm.
system, right?
Yeah.
There's something for me about loyalty that is important,
Yeah.
and in two ways. When you refer somebody, and like you just said the magic word, you vouch for them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're putting your reputation as Gorden Campbell, masterful drummer, musician, producer guy, on
Uh-huh.
the line for this other person.
Mm-hmm.
That carries a lot of weight. So I feel like two things should happen. That person who you gave the gig to
Mm-hmm.
should then call you and thank you.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. Yes.
That's like a professional courtesy.
Yep.
And be like, yo, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate the referral.
Yep.
And then they should go represent you properly.
Yep.
That's the
Because
second.
because if they mess up, my people are gonna call me back like, yo, your boy, such and such. If they start with your boy, I'm like, oh God, what do they do? They're gonna call me, and like you said, that's my reputation.
Right.
They're never gonna listen to me again, and I don't want that. So yeah,
Right. And
that stuff is important.
so important. We're only as good as our word and our reputation.
Yep.
So man, okay, that's something so important that I
Yeah.
just like to stress.
I had sorry, not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I was having lunch one time with Jerry Peters, you know, the famous string arranger and keep. I call him Uncle Jerry
Yeah.
because one of my good friends, that's his real uncle. So he would be like Uncle Jerry. So I call him Uncle Jerry.
Right.
So we were just having lunch one day, and we were talking about the Silvers, the group The Silvers, the Misdemeanor. Jerry produced that record. It's just a funk thing. So we were talking about that. I was like, bro, who played bass on that? Who played bass? And he was telling me who it was. And he was like, yo, he was going to be the guy in LA. Like, he was the guy everybody was calling back then. I guess that's the 70s.
Yeah.
And another guy came up, another bass player that was a great bass player from San Diego. And he was doing sessions too. He said, but once he do the session, he would send a note to the artist. Like back then it was no email, it was just snail mail. Thank you for calling me on your session. He said, thank you for using me on your record. And people, that made all the difference in the world. And people start calling them all the time. Just for that simple note that he would handwrite, thank you for using me on your session. And that bass player is Nathan East. I don't even know if I should be telling that story, but Jerry Peters told me that.
I was just going to say, I had a feeling it was Nathan East.
Yeah.
Because
And I don't know Nathan that well. I worked with him like once, but that's what Jerry Peters, he's like, this other guy from the Silvers was killing, but he said Nathan East came in and was killing too, but he would do that little extra note, thank you so much for, so.
Well, let me say this. It's so funny. I did a gig with Nathan. He asked me maybe 3-4 years ago to do one of his gigs down in San Diego. He was playing for his community, like a charity thing. He was giving back, and they were, so honored to have him. And he asked me to play the gig, and of course I said yes. All the cats were on the gig. I was really excited. Go down and do it, and we didn't talk anything about money. I didn't ask, and he didn't mention it because I knew when you're dealing with that classification of musician here, in the business, sometimes you just don't have to ask. Sometimes, right?
It's levels to this game.
There's levels, right?
Yeah.
I didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe, and you know what? I told them I had to bounce after the gig because I was catching a flight. So all the other guys were hanging out. It was J.R. Robinson and Dave DeLome and some other cats. And that one was Steve Ferroni. Right. Anyway. Okay. So they're hanging out after the gig, and somebody texted me and said, "Yo, Nathan was hoping that you would stick around." I was like, "Oh no, I already told him I had to jump on the flight." Blah blah blah.
Right.
So he paid everybody.
Right.
So I didn't get paid. Whatever. A week later, I get a personalized note in the mail with payment, and I was like, and this is now. We're talking now after he's had this long, legendary career.
Yes.
And like you said, I'm a nobody, man. I'm just a, come on. So for him to do that for me was like, wow.
Right. You're not a nobody, by the way. But yes. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. This being gracious. And it's not being fake. It's because some people are overdoing it and you can read right through it. Especially us from New York. We be looking like, come on, bro. That's whack.
You're
Don't
full of,
fake. Just be real. Yeah. Don't
yeah,
be full
yeah.
of it. If just a gracious person and really have gratitude because we're doing what we love to do and somebody thought enough of us to call us and pay us, it's important. So you made me think of that when you saying people, when you call them for a gig, call back and say, yo, thanks, just
Dude,
acknowledge. You could just text me, just be like, yo, good look on that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not asking for like you to, kiss up to me, but just
Right.
acknowledge it, right? Just thank
And
you.
it's a simple text at this point.
Especially
Yeah.
at this point. You're right.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so 94, you're here, you get your apartment, and you were working with Shy, and you knew all the cats from back east. How did you? Because again, a lot of the young people coming into town, man, I want to get session work. So
Yeah.
the touring work, there's session work. How did you get into the session scene?
I really didn't like I want to. And this is what I kind of learned from getting here because my roommate when I moved in was Trevor Lawrence. I know you probably know Trevor Lawrence. We were roommates right here in North Hollywood. He knew everybody because he grew up here. His dad played with Stevie. His mom was one of the Supremes, the newer group of the Supremes. So he was in the mix. So I would just hang around him. I didn't have no car. So he took me to Fifth Street Dick's where all the jazz cats were playing. He took me to Ndugu's house a couple times. So
Wow.
I knew Ndugu just through Trevor. Um, so I kind of got in the mix, like between hanging out with him, sitting in, but the sessions wasn't like it was. And I always say that. And that's kind of like why I stopped touring because I wanted to do more records. YouTube has changed the game, but before that, I would always say your legacy as a musician is on record because live people see it and it's over. Now, because people are videotaping, it has a longer life. But back then, I'm like, I want to do records. But everybody in R&B and pop was using programming in the 90s. So it wasn't a lot of drum stuff. I started doing more like when I started playing with Gerald Albright. Well, that was around that time, but I was doing jazz and that. Gerald used me on one of his albums when I first got here. Who else? Just meeting a couple different producers. So for me, I never really did a lot of sessions when I first got here. I was just always on tour. The other thing I realized is you almost got to make a decision. Like I'm gonna be a touring drummer or I'm gonna be a session drummer. Because if you're, and Harvey Mason told me this. He played on. This is just a story I'm thinking about. He played on Headhunters.
Oh yeah.
When they went on tour, first of all, he almost didn't do the album. He said because they did the album in San Francisco, and he didn't want to leave town because he's like, once you leave town, you got to get back at the end of the line and work your way. He said, I was doing everything in town. So he ended up going to San Francisco. I don't know if it was 2 weeks or 2 months. I forget. But it was for a minute. He was out of town. And he said he hated it because that's when everybody had to use drums on everything. So he was working at every studio in town. And he said once the tour started, Herbie was like, yo, we about to go. He was like, I can't. He literally didn't do that tour because he did not want to leave town. To get to my point, either you're a studio guy or you're a session guy. If you can get with an artist or somebody that uses you on both, that's rare, but it could happen. But outside of that, because of the time that I came and the style of music I was doing, most people weren't using live drums in the studio. Everybody was programming MPC 60. This is before Pro Tools and all that. Everybody's using MP or some type of drum machine.
Yeah.
Going
down ADAT or DA88s.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when I came. It wasn't, and then just as in time of me playing with so many different people, my name started popping up in different circles. And that's when I started doing more sessions and playing on some records and things of that nature. But before that, I was like, nah, I want to play on records. But I kept getting tours and it was money. It was like, all right, I'm not going to turn down money.
That's right. Man, I remember when I first came out, Alex Al told me the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, look, take the gigs because you need the bread. That's fine. But he said, at some point, you're going to have to make a sacrifice and get off the road. And I still think, even though times have changed so much,
Yeah.
technology and the way we work and stuff, I still think there is some truth to that, right? Like you're saying, if you're gonna be in town all the time, people get used to, oh, that person's always in town.
Yep.
Call, let's do it. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
It's a perception thing too.
right.
I think it's even with me with my production, because a lot of people know me as a drummer, they just assume I don't know how to produce. So, which is why I did my album, which we can get to later.
Yeah,
So
that's
people,
exactly what.
yeah,
Yeah.
so people can hear my production, and now they're like, "Yo, you produced that? Like you did the string arrangement, you did the horn arrangement," and it's like you can tell people that you do all of this stuff,
Hmm.
but until they hear it and actually see it and like out somewhere, they just don't believe it's true. It's just you get pigeonholed. So it's the same thing as being a touring drummer or being a studio guy.
Hmm.
It's perception. And even when I'm in town, when I would come home, I go right out the next night. I'm at the club, like I'm back in town. I need work because people just assume that you're gone all the time. They don't even call you,
Right.
when you could be sitting right there. So all of that, it's perception, you know,
I
and
love it. That's so true, man. And I want to talk about that. But before we get there, because you've played with so many amazing artists, let's talk real quick about touring because I do believe that there's some rules of the road
for sure.
when you're out there touring. And you've toured with, like you said, Jessica Simpson, Neo. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, you were the
hmm
music director for Neo as well, right?
Yeah, I was. Yep.
Okay. So talk about some of your touring life and that whole realm.
Okay. And I'll do it super quick in terms of because I started with Shy.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like back then, they had a thing called Budweiser Superfest, and it was like 20 groups on there. So a couple of them had bands. What it did was, um, I met all the other musicians from all the other bands, and
Mm.
everybody connected. Everybody. This is before cell phones. There wasn't even no cell phones. We had Sky Pagers back then in
I,
'93.
I had a pager.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So, but I got to meet like I kind of knew Gerald Hayward because we grew up in the same kind of Church of God in Christ circles. But he was from Brooklyn. I was from Newburgh. I didn't kind of, you know. So that's where that tour, that Shy tour, he was playing with Silk in SWV. So that's where I really got to know him. And we hung like every day. We were together for like probably 4 months because we did a 2-month tour, took a couple weeks off, and then did more. But Gerald broke his hand somewhere in that tour, and he was still playing with a cast on. He literally, if you watch Gerald now, he plays with the stick in between, like here, instead of like right here,
Uh,
because the cast was like that around his hand, and but his fingers are out, so he was able to play, and the cast was there, and he finally was playing so hard, the cast broke. So they was like, bro, you got to go home and let that heal for a minute. So I ended up, because I was on the tour, doing a bunch of dates with Silk and Shy, like every day, because Gerald, but that's got me in the game. And then all the front house guys, the monitor guys, production managers, all of them was seeing me doing all this stuff. And they was like, yo, we got this other thing. And then once you in the mix and in their brain, they're going to start calling you, oh, call Gordon. He can do it.
mhm.
They knew they can call me with no rehearsal. I'll show up and I made my charts on the plane and I'm going to get them through the show. It might not be perfect, but I can get through, So a lot of the connections came from being on tour and all that. So to make it quick, so I started with Shy. And then Gerald broke his hand. I started doing some dates with Silk. I did a couple dates with SWV. And then I moved on to like Eric Benet had just come out, Rasan Patterson. I
Mhm.
started playing with Brownstone. Um,
Wow.
and before that was after Shy was Gerald Albright and Layla Hathaway. And he worked all the time. Like we worked year round. We opened for Maze. So Michael White was playing drums with Maze. I got to hang with him for a summer, '94. He was like, bro, little bro, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right
Yeah.
with Michael White with Maze. So just the more I did it, the more people I played with. And then I got on with Earth, Wind and Fire. I
Uh-huh.
got on with just so many different people, man. Neo, Jessica Simpson.
Right.
I did American Idol. I did a Mary J. Blige tour, 1997 with Mary, Kenny Lattimore. I played with Bobby Lyle, Kirk Whalum, Rick Braun, Boney, like all the smooth jazz, a
Yep.
whole bunch of the R&B. Then I was able to do a lot of with Ray Chu. I used to do the BET Honors every year. We were the house band for that show, so I got a chance to play with Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, Jennifer Hudson, the OJs. I did the BET Awards with Guy, New Edition. I did it the year Michael Jackson died. So it was one thing already, but Michael died. We had to go back. You know, you rehearse at center staging or somewhere in rehearsal place. Then you go to the venue for production rehearsals and camera block. We were already at the shrine when Michael died. It was like, we got to go back. So they had to set up a whole nother set of gear at center staging to do a whole bunch more songs because Michael Jackson had just died to learn, you know, to add to the show to honor him. So playing stuff like that, I got to play literally with everybody. If I didn't tour with them, I've been on stage at some point with from Kim Burrell to Yolanda Adams. I played with Whitney Houston, literally everybody. You
I
know,
love that, man.
yeah,
Now, okay,
yeah.
there's a few things I want to single out. First of all, I did 6 years with Yolanda Adams.
Did you? I
Yeah.
think I knew that.
Yeah, see, this was something. That's what I'm saying. This was when I was back in Nashville.
Right.
There was nothing like that. That was such a great learning process.
Who was in that band? Was it like Quinn?
That was Quinn and Anthony Harmon on bass.
Yes, yes.
Man, God rest his soul.
So I met you. I had to have met you then because I saw them a few times with Quinn.
Yeah.
Was Daryl Hunt playing then too?
Daryl Hunt started in the later years. As I was
Okay.
there, but first it was Tyrone Dickerson.
Got you.
He was the one who brought me in.
Uh-huh.
And Virgil Stratford on organ.
Okay. Got you. Yeah.
So, and I did 8 years with Kirk Whalum. So you and I have seen each other on the road for the past 20 years.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
We're always passing by each other at a venue. You know?
Exactly. It's pretty crazy, man. But that's the network. And the more you work, it was like the more gigs I had, the more people were calling me for gigs. It's like the domino effect.
That is,
you know,
I always say that work begets work.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And I've had literally people go, man, every time I turn on the TV, I'm seeing you with somebody, man. What you got next week? And literally hire me because they just saw me. Like,
Wow.
okay. And I was taking everything. I was doing 2 and 3 gigs. And when I first moved here, I was the only that I knew about, the only young black guy that grew up in church. So I played gospel, but I played jazz. I was a jazz studies major at Howard. So I could play jazz, I could play gospel. I grew up as a hip hop kid in New York, so in the 80s. So I had a broad spectrum, and I played in orchestra. I did a little bit of everything. And one thing I'm mad about is like Harvey Mason's still like a huge percussionist out here. Timpani, mallets, he does like the Emmys, the Oscars. And I did all of that in school because that was my priority. And I stopped doing it out here. But what I was gonna say, it just turned me on to so many different things. Like it was just open. It was I know what I'm saying. I was the only young drummer that had the gospel feel, but I could play R&B pop. So the other drummers like Donnell Spencer, Derek Organ on the black side, Rayford Griffin.
Oh.
But I was that young dude that had a little different church flavor that they didn't have maybe.
Yeah.
And I was into hip hop and I was listening. So this is before like Oscar Seaton, Teddy Campbell, Felix Pollard, Nissan, Chris, none of them were around yet. So I had a rehearsal at Center Staging. I had a kid at SIR. I had a kid at Third Encore. I was literally doing all of the gigs at one point, like the 94, 95, 96. That's why I played with so many people because nobody else was here yet. You know, now it's like chock full. It's like 10 good drummers that could do, you know, any gig, and they're all my homies. But back then, none of them lived here yet. So I was just like, never home.
That is so awesome. Well, a couple things I want to talk about there is the versatility and the authenticity. That's something that's been one of my things is like, if I'm going to play a style, I want to play it authentically.
Yeah.
I don't want to, jack around. I want to nail it. So like that, to be able to play legitimate gospel, legitimate jazz, legitimate pop and hip hop and all those things. And now, so that's so important. And the other thing you said was, it doesn't matter if you're on the plane right now charts. You could show up to the gig and nail it without a rehearsal.
Yep.
And that has to be like your focal point, man. You have to be able to do that.
Yep. Yep.
Because people don't have time for rehearsal half the time.
Nope. And some people don't like the rehearsal. When I started playing with George Duke, I went to his house. He said, just bring a kick snare hat. So I'll go up to his house, the studio. We played maybe 2 songs. And he was like, man, you got it. And George's music is hard. Like, we playing Frank Zappa stuff. Odd meters and everything. I'm like, I'm nervous. Like, you sure you don't want to run over this? He's like, He didn't like to rehearse. I
Yeah.
would think we played 2 songs. He's like, man, you got it. I'll see you at the airport. Literally, that was how I started playing with him.
Famous last words. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And George used to always joke, oh man, you'll hear it. It's like 13-8, and it's everybody. He was like, oh, you'll hear it. And
Here.
we would laugh like, no, I won't. I need to hear it here in practice. So
Did you play with Michael Manson in George Duke's band?
yeah, we
Yeah,
toured forever.
there
I
you
played with
go.
Mike,
Nice.
and before when I first started playing, I was subbing for Teddy,
Okay.
and then Teddy got the Britney Spears gig, so I just stayed on the George gig, and Larry Campbell was playing bass.
There you go. Yep.
So we've done stuff. I've done stuff with George, with Larry, mostly with Mike, because
Okay.
Larry got the Maze gig, and then he was in and out. I've done a couple records with George, and Christian McBride was on bass, playing electric, and then I did a couple with Alex Al. Ugh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Stank.
me, Jeff Lee Johnson, George, and Alex Al.
Wow.
Whew. I was just happy to be there, like just holding on to my sticks, like, all right, I'm just happy. You know what I'm saying?
I love
So
it. I love
yeah.
it.
But being versatile has kept me working. Cause like I'll do a pop gig, and then, pop artists, they'll go out, they might do a year, and a lot of them will just stop to do a new record, or they'll stop for a year. So what do you do in that year? George would call, and I go out with George, or I do a session. Being able to play different things. Where some of my friends are not jazz guys, they just do big arenas with the big artists. They'll work for a while, but then those off times, they just at home.
Right.
Playing at church or something, and I'm still on the road on a whole nother scene with a whole nother group of people that don't even know those other guys.
That's
So
right.
that's been a blessing for me to be able to like have steady gigs for the last almost 30 years.
I love that. I love
Almost nonstop. Yeah.
Now, you and I talked a while ago, probably 5 years or so, something like that. I was outside your studio, obviously. Well, not obviously, but obvious to us. But I
Right.
was listening. Gordon's studio is in North Hollywood. Mine's in Burbank, literally maybe a couple miles apart from each other.
Yeah.
And you were saying, there's probably more than 5 years ago. It had to be more than 5 years ago. You were saying, yeah, man, I'm definitely focusing on production and working in my studio. You built your beautiful studio.
Thank you.
And around the same time, I had committed to the same thing.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that now. It's so important. I feel like, after a while, I don't know. I don't want to say we got tired. You just want a change of pace. You want to work in your studio. You want to produce.
I got tired of it. You can
Yeah.
say that. I did.
I agree, because I feel the
Yeah.
same way, but I didn't want to put words in your mouth. Yeah.
No, I did. That last tour I was on,
Yeah.
they were laughing at me because I'm like, this is it. I'm not going out for a while. I'm chilling. And I literally, usually I don't tell people, but I was like, don't call me for no tours. I'm not going out. And I still did get called for. I got called for a George Benson gig. Oscar Seaton referred me,
I love George.
and it was crazy. I don't know. I should say the name, but it's too late now. But
No.
Oscar Seaton, David Garfield called. I guess he was the MD,
Yeah.
and he was like, yeah, Oscar told me to give you a call. We need a drummer to do the Benson gig. Like, it'll be your gig if you take. And I was like, yeah, thank you, but I'm not going out. And the phone just got quiet. He was like, you got another gig or something? Like, he couldn't fathom me turning down. And George Benson, I'm sure, pays them good because them guys been on there forever.
Right.
And I was like, no, I got to sacrifice. I want to produce. And then he was like, bro, I've been trying to do that for years. This is David Garfield telling me this. I've been trying to do that same thing for years. I just, and it's a sacrifice. First of all,
That's right.
you're cutting off your main source of income.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're taking on, I don't know if people know, in LA, studios in LA run around $2,000 a month. So I'm adding on an extra $2,000 onto my monthly budget on top of my house note, my
Yep.
car note,
Yep.
my daughter who was about to go to college, that whole nine. It was literally a step of faith. And it hasn't, to me, I haven't gotten to the pinnacle where I want to be yet,
Right.
but I'm still here. And I moved in here in 2014.
There you go.
And I'm still here. I'm still paying the rent. It's not late. It's on time. And I've been late before, but
Yeah.
it was a leap of faith. But it was funny when David Garfield was like, man, I've been trying to do that forever. Just stay home. And it's a sacrifice. And like I said, because people pigeonhole me into being a drummer, I've seen people, and you know how big this complex is. It's all kind of producers and artists.
Yes. Yes.
They all know me as a drummer. So I'll be out and like standing in front of my door or something. I'm like, what you doing here? I'm like, I got a room. What you got? I'm like, I'm a producer. They'll come see my room, and still in their mind, didn't put it together like, yo, he's like a real producer. He ain't just
Right.
tapping out some beats or something,
Right.
So that pigeonhole thing is real, but I figured that I had to make the sacrifice and really do it to start getting people to even call. And I'm still a work in progress, but some people call me like, "Can you produce this for me?" And I'm doing it.
Man,
Yeah.
I love that. So everybody listening, let that be, some inspiration. Gorden Campbell, master drummer, turning the tides in his own career to become a masterful producer. It's a big deal, and it takes, like you said, it takes sacrifice. But if you don't make up your mind to do it, who's gonna do it? Nobody.
Yep. Yep.
You got to do it.
You got to do it, and you can't be scared. I mean, you're gonna be a little nervous because you're gonna be
Yeah.
like, "All right,"
Yeah.
but you can't be scared. I even had my sister was like, "Are you sure you're gonna be able to handle this?" Because I had another studio that was about $1,000 a month that I was sharing. That was cool,
Mhm.
but I was sharing. So if something happened, there was another person we could. But me moving in here by myself, and it went up almost another grand to almost 2 grand. She was like, just be careful. Like, just make. I'm like, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So even when other people say you can't do it because they don't see the vision, you got to know it. You just got to know it. And like we said, that manifestation and you build it, they will come.
That's right.
That's what happened.
That's it. Now
You
let's
know,
talk about. I love how you took it to the next level, and you made your own album, Conversations,
hmm
and then you use that as proof of proof in the pudding that
Yeah.
hey, this is what I do. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, man. Congratulations.
Conversations. Thank you. I do have CDs, which is weird because a lot of people have bought them.
I love that,
I
man.
had to order a few new boxes of CDs because they keep like people are buying them. I'm like, okay, all
That's
right, cool.
awesome. Now
Yeah.
it's the same picture that's on your website. People can go to GordenCampbell.com, and Gordon is Gorden Campbell CampBell.com.
Yep.
Talk about this, man. This is killer. And
And
by
they
the
can go to
way,
my IG too. My
okay,
IG is Gordon512.
awesome. By the way, I saw this. You've been doing some great publicity. So
Thank you.
kudos on the album and on the marketing because
Thank you.
clearly you did both.
Yeah. Now marketing. I'm gonna do better. It's about to get cracking.
Okay, good, good, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Building
I,
some
I saw
content.
I saw you doing it, so you did something right.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
talk about that and how it all came into existence.
Okay. So when I stopped touring, I stopped because I just wanted to play on more records, drum wise, but I wanted to produce too. So initially, I was like, I'm about to get the studio up and cracking, and I'm just gonna be making beats and producing for people. And in that, I had a band that you probably saw us at Cordial, ENG band with Ethan Farmer, Eddie Brown, Eric Walls, me, Regiment Horns,
Yep.
and either Roland Garcia or Taku on percussion. And
Ah,
our singer was Denise. She goes by Apollo Jane now.
Apollo Jane. Yes,
Yeah.
man. Thank
So
you for bringing this up. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
so I was like, I want to do an ENG album. I never wanted to be an artist. In my brain, I never wanted to be an artist. But to make it short, people kept saying, "Bro, you should do an album. You
Yeah.
should do an album." And I was like, "Man," they was like, "You play all the instruments. You know how to produce. You know how to do background. Just do an album." And I was like, "No." One of my best friends, Sharice, was like, "If you keep waiting on them, you're never gonna do it." Because at this point, Regiment was out with Justin Timberlake for like 2 years. Ethan was out with Lionel Richie. Eddie was on the Songs in the Key of Life tour for like almost a year and a half. Eric Walls plays with everybody. So nobody was even home to work.
Yep.
And I was like, we need to do an ENG album because there's bands. There's Snarky Puppy, Glasper with his band. Um, that's what I want to do. And Kamasi was coming along, Terrace
Awesome.
Martin.
Yes.
Terrace is the one that got me my deal with Rope It Up, Terrace Martin. But
Wow.
so my friend, and I mean, we were getting arguments. She was like, "Bro, you stupid. Like, you should do it now." I'm like, "I don't want to be an artist." Like arguments. And then I was working with Paul Brown, the smooth jazz
Of
producer,
course. Of course.
and we were working in Valentine's room. We were doing something with Zoo,
Nice.
and he wanted me to play. Well, he always had me play drums. I'm like, I can do it here. So he said, "Well, when we get done, I'm gonna come. I want to see what your room sounds like." So he came in, and whatever track he was playing, I just started playing the piano. He was like, "Wait a minute, that sounds better than the keyboard player I got on here. Can you redo?" So I ended up on that track playing live drums, program percussion, and I played piano. I played Rhodes on the song for Paul Brown. He was like, "You ever think about doing an album? You should do an album. I'll play on it for free. You should do it." So him and then two other people was like, "You need to do an album." I was like, "I guess I need to do an album." So that's where it came from. And then it got to the point, well, what songs am I gonna do? Because I play so many different styles of music. Where am I coming from with it? And I literally would just sit here. I would think of a beat. A lot of it started with me sitting on the drums, coming up with a groove. Then I record and cut 8 bars and copy and paste the eight, and then build a whole song around that groove.
Nice.
But and so every song, if you hear the album, every song is different. Every song got a whole nother vibe. Cause I didn't say I'm gonna do a jazz album, I'm gonna do an R&B album. I just did whatever came to me that day. I literally just would play a groove or come up with a bass line, or I would wake up with something, and I would just come in here and do it. And then when I did it, I knew, like, okay, I need J-Mo on this song, or
Mm-hmm.
um I need whoever, Eddie Brown on keys on this song. Like, as I was doing it, I did a song. I was like, I need B Slade on. I need him to sing this song. I did it with Pig Funk. Eric Smith, Jubal's
Yeah,
brother.
absolutely.
He
Yeah.
was just here one day hanging out because he lives in Oakland. He was here. I was like, "You got your bass?" When he got his bass, and I said, "Just play a bass line." And he was like, "Man, I don't write songs." I'm like, "Bro, just play something."
Yeah.
He started playing this bass line that was so funky. I ran and got on my drums and I recorded it. And now it's called 6 in the Morning, and it's on the album with B Slade. I was like, B Slade's gonna kill this.
There you
Before
go.
he even knew. I saw him on the street and he heard it, and now it's called 6 in the Morning. So
But see, that's being a producer. When
right.
when you have the vision, you know exactly who to call to
Yes.
facilitate that vision. I mean, Quincy Jones himself said it. The greatest producer makes the best phone calls. You know.
Yes. What's crazy, there's a interlude. My album's called Conversations, by the way.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to do is make it like a lot of the stuff I learned over the years is just from talking, how we're talking now. Even when I was at Howard, I used to study with Grady Tate. Grady Tate would come down from the city.
Wow.
He would come once a week. I mean, once a month, and stay for the whole week and teach vocals because he was a crazy singer, and teach drums. So me, Chris Dave, Mark Prince, all of us studied with Grady. But after a while, he was like, "Man, here, man, just go get something to eat. Like, I can't show you nothing else. You just need to be gigging. You need to get the experience."
Yeah.
So at some point, it was nothing he not saying he nothing he could teach us, but that's from his mouth. Bro, here, go get some food. He give me $20. Chris was like, "Man, he did that to me too." Like, he just didn't want to teach.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff I learned outside of him showing me some technique was us sitting there talking. And the conversation that he would be like, "Yo, man, on this gig, when I was playing with such and such, I did that." I retained more from the conversation than I did from the technique stuff. Not that it wasn't good, but that's the music. And he was like, "Yeah, when you're doing this, don't do that." Or when the singer's singing, make sure you play. So all these conversations is what really helped me grow as a musician. So that's what I call my album. But anyway, there's an interlude with Harvey Mason where I'm talking to Harvey on the phone. I made an interlude. And he was like, "Man, I used to do my albums how you're doing it, just like Quincy." Like, he sees it like a movie. He knows who's gonna play what part in that movie. And what you said is literally what Harvey told me
Yep.
about how I did my album. He said he knows who he wants to use for each thing. He said he does it like a movie. He just picks the actors for that scene.
It's casting, baby. It's musical casting. I love that.
Yeah. And it just would come to me when I do it. So I'm like, "Yo, he's gonna kill that."
Yeah.
And it was so organic.
Yeah.
I know like Cahuenga and Burbank right up the street. It's really nothing over there. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm driving down the street and B Slade is just standing on Burbank and Cahuenga. And I'm like, "B," and he was like, "Who is it?" I'm like, "It's Gordon." So the light turned, so I had to keep going. I couldn't stop and talk because there were cars behind me. He was like, "Hey, where you going?" I'm like, "My studio." He's like, "I'm coming right now." He literally came. I didn't ask him to come, nothing. And I said, "Yo." He's like, "What you up to?" I said, "I'm working on my album." I said, "I got a track I want you to hear." So I played it, and immediately he started saying 6 in the Morning. So if you hear the song, it'll make more sense. But he literally, it was so organic that I just saw him on a random Burbank and Cahuenga where there's nothing. He was coming, yeah.
So random.
But even more random because he's busy. He
Right.
would have probably been like, "Yo, what up?" And that would have been it. He
Right.
called me when he said he's looking. I was like, "It's Gordon." He calls my phone like, "Yo, where you at?" "I'm going to the studio. I'm coming." Why would B Slade come to my studio? He used to work here, so he's been here a number of times. But
Yeah.
Not if he ain't had nothing to do. Like I didn't expect him to, and he literally pulled up. I was like, oh shoot,
Man, but
this
then
is meant to be.
I love that. And then
Yeah.
you have all these great features, Sheila E., Kamasi Washington.
Yep.
Talk about some more of the features and you know.
Yeah. So I got Kamasi, Terrace Martin, Alex Isley, PJ Morton, BJ Chicago Kid, Oscar Cartaya, Paul Jackson Jr., Eddie Brown. Then I got the homies like J-Mo, Jairus Mosey, Eric Walls, Roland Garcia, Taku Hirano, Maddie. Maddie just went blank on Maddie's name. Plays with Randy Amata.
Oh, I know Randy.
Yeah, Maddie's a bass player.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's Billy Disco on Instagram. That boy is cold. I just saw them last night too.
Oh, nice.
Maddie played bass. Courtney Leonard played bass on a couple things. I just call the people that I've been around, that I've worked with. And Terrace, I had to put him on because Terrace is the other person that was like, bro, you need to do an album, bro. Like, why are you messing around? For like 2-3 years, I would see him at events.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you need to do an album. You need to meet Lewis. And he's like, I'm okay. I'm like, who is Lewis? He runs Rope-A-Dope Records. And finally, I saw him. I was playing with Layla at a Grammy party maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was there. He's like, I'm telling you, you need to do an album, man. You played with George Duke, and you did this, and you did. Bro, yeah. He texted Lewis that next day. That was a Saturday. We had a 2-hour conversation, me and Lewis. Sunday morning, I had a contract in my email from Rope-A-Dope.
Wow.
He never heard none of my songs. He didn't know what I did. He just did it on the strength of Terrace.
See?
So
that testifies to the power of, the buddy system, vouching for people.
Yes.
Come on.
Yep.
That means your reputation is so strong.
Yep.
That you could get a record deal without the label hearing a note.
Listen, when he finally started hearing the stuff he was like, yo. And then when he finally heard the finished product, mastered, mix, and everything, he called me up. Lewis was like, bro, this is amazing. We're about to work, and now we're in that phase. It's out. Now we're starting to get to work. And, But, yeah, so that's how it happened.
Congratulations, Gorden. That is so awesome, bro.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Before we wrap, what would you say to the young career musician wanting to come out to L.A.? This is a 2-part question. Mm-hmm. First of all, how do you define success? Mm-hmm. And what would you say to that young musician coming out trying to make it?
I think success, it's like an ongoing thing because we should create goals for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then once you reach that goal, then you set another goal. So it's like a never-ending thing. But I think I'm successful because I was able to play with a lot of people that I never even fathomed playing with. Like, who thinks that they're going to play with Earth, Wind, and Fire for a number of years? Maurice White calling me on the phone like, hey, man, yeah, I'm hip. He was super cool. It's like, I never thought that. So to me, that's pretty successful. But then I'm like, I want to produce too. So now I'm still on my grind. I'm 50. I just turned 50. I'm still on my grind to get that production on. It's not always the young trap. I do everything. I do a rock band, a pop band, because I played on so many records. And I ask so many questions when I'm in the studio. The engineer's like, dog, I'm like, I want to know. And that's why I can run my own room with drums and because I ask questions. But I'm able to produce, if it's a band with a band with real players in the band, I can produce that. I can arrange it. I can pretty much play all of the parts to show them what I want, So that's the next level of success for me. But I guess I would say success is really being at peace. If you're spiritually, financially, being able to pay your bills without stressing, which most musicians, we're all check to check pretty much, especially after a pandemic. It's like, so, but I think success is really having peace and being happy with whatever your goal was and reaching that goal. That, to me, that's success.
I love that.
Yeah. And what was your other question?
What would you tell the young musician coming out, the young career musician that just wants to get on, quote unquote, that wants to make it, quote unquote?
Right. I would say really learn your craft, man. Like, nobody can take that from you. People can take gigs. They can get their homie on the gig, whatever. But if you really study whatever your instrument is, and not just your instrument, study the music and study all kinds of music. But even if you're going to do one style of music, know it inside and out. Know the history, like where it came from. And I can hear the difference in a musician if they know the history. Like, if I hear a drummer, I can tell that they know about Elvin. I can tell they know about Tony Williams. I can tell if they know about Tane. I can tell if they know about Jim Keltner. I can tell if they know about Paul Lime by just listening to their playing. So to me, the better you are at your craft, the more knowledge you have at doing that and playing, the more chance you have at getting a gig. It's like it's almost inevitable. If you come here, there's so many gigs, somebody's gonna call you. And it just opens up doors. So do that. Be prepared to get a regular job if it's not popping off yet, because you got to still live. A lot of people come out here with a false sense of I'm coming out there, I'm gonna be on tour immediately. It don't always work like that. And even I would say like my family back in New York, whenever they saw me, I was on TV or on tour.
Right.
I'm like, they're like, man, you got money. Give me some money. That was a joke. Give me some money. I see you on. I'm like, bruh, when's the last time you saw me on TV? 3 months ago? Okay, well, I haven't worked in those 3 months after that. They don't realize that it's like a false sense of like grandeur when it's like, it's real. You got to have and I've told people too, don't come out here if you don't have a passion for it, because there's going to be a lot of downtime with no work and nobody's calling or somebody jerk you out of a gig or something. And you're going to be like, yo, so be ready for reality, but know your craft, have an open mind, be cool, and don't mind sitting in places. Like a lot of my gigs I got from sitting in somewhere and being open to meeting people and you can have a good career.
I love that. I love that. Words of wisdom to live by, folks, from Gorden Campbell. And okay, I lied. I got one more thing I want to ask you. Actually,
Take your
this is
time.
fun. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions if you're
Word.
down.
All right, yeah.
All
Let's do
right,
it.
cool. Here we go. As an entertainer, we entertain people, right? As a musician, that's what we do.
Right.
What entertains you?
Watching other musicians. Really. It seems whack, but I just love music. So I'm always out. I like seeing other musicians.
I love it.
Something I would do, I'd say people go, what do you do on the side? I love hiking. I'm like into hiking. So I'm always at Runyon. I'm always for health reasons, but I just like getting out. I hear songs. A lot of times I don't listen to anything. I'm just my feet crinkling on the dirt.
Man,
walking.
I want to do a hike with you. That's what we're gonna do next.
Let's go.
We're gonna put it on the books.
Let's go tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow.
Let's do it. Done.
All right.
I love it.
All right.
What time do you go? Do you go in the morning?
That's the thing. I go when I get up and when I feel like going. So like I went Monday, it was 90. I went at like 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I try to go like 9 or 10.
Okay, perfect.
We got a crew, Dre Bowman and Oscar Cartaya.
Yeah.
We have a little crew of us that go together. But lately I've been going by myself because I just go when I feel like it. Right. I don't want to have to be there. I just go even if it's hot, I just go. So, but tomorrow, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10.
Man, I'm gonna hit you up when I wake up.
All right, for sure.
Love it. All right, not that everybody. There you go, everybody. Now you know Gorden and I's hiking plans.
Right. Hey, come with us. It can't hurt. The more the merrier. We all need to be in shape.
Exactly. All right. Oh, by the way, I'm 49, so I'm right there with you.
Oh, you're right behind me. Yeah.
50 club, baby. Yeah.
Bro, I turned 50 in May, so.
Congratulations. Happy birthday, man.
Thank you. But I feel great. Great.
There you go. Music keeps us young.
Yeah, I was gonna say this industry keeps you you got to stay kind of fresh.
Yeah.
In order for anything, so.
I love that. Song or band that changed your life?
Ooh. Song, drummer. It's gospel. Don't wait till the battle's over. Joel Smith is on drum. This is the Hawkins.
Joel Smith. Come on, man.
Walter Hawkins. I think it's Love Alive 4. One of his albums, but yeah, with Joel. I think Kevin Baum might have been playing. I forget who I played on the record, but Joel played drums and he played bass on that album.
Nice.
Like Joel would play drums live at the live session and go back in the studio. So because I play bass and drums, it's like, but the way he attacked that intro, I always say to this day, to me, I feel like that's the coldest intro in gospel ever. Wow. It's not choppy, it's just groove. But the way he's playing the hi-hat.
Yep. See?
Yeah, that changed my life. One
of my early guitar mentors was Jonathan Dubose.
Exactly.
I love Johnny, man.
Woo! Yep. Idol.
Man, Idol. Come on. And Johnny used to tell me the stories about him and Joel. And man, talking about history.
Yeah, that's real history.
Musical history. That's amazing. And what the sweetest guys in the world, man. So earth and chill.
Yep.
And
I do have to say that all of the real heavyweight guys that I really look up to are all super cool, super inviting, super just like, yo, man, come on, The arrogant ones that I met ain't that good. They can't play that good and be arrogant. But the ones that can play are all 9 times out of 10 super down to earth and like welcoming. And when I met, just a quick story, when I met Ndugu, I was with Trevor.
Yeah.
And then I went back to his house with Trevor maybe 6 months later. And we walked up. He was like, "What's up, Gordon?" I'm like, "You remember my name?" He was like, "Yeah." He said, "We watching," because I was starting to gig. So he was telling me the older guys are seeing who's on gigs now. So he said, "No, we watching. I know who you are." And ever since then, rest in peace, Ndugu. Well, we were super cool.
Wow, I love that. I love that. All
So
right.
yeah.
Your friends would say you are
Funny, maybe.
I like it. Favorite city?
Washington, D.C.
There you go. Drink of choice, which I think I know.
Well, it changes from time to time. It used to be Long Island.
All right.
I don't know. I don't really have one thing. I drink everything, unfortunately.
I'm with you on that.
So I say Long Island iced tea.
All right, I like. See,
Actually, even better than that, water. I drink water all day, every day.
There you go. We got to drink our water. All right.
Drink of choice.
There we go, baby. Waters.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Ooh. I'll say type of food, soul food.
Okay.
Like I love fried chicken. If you would ask my friends that, they would say pancakes. Because I'm a breakfast buff, so pancakes, I'd say.
You remember Dupar's?
Of course, with the melted butter.
Oh,
Come
man.
on, bro.
The one on Ventura closed down.
Yeah, I think it might have had a fire too. I think.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
So now I'm on More Than Waffles on Lancashire, or there's one in Woodland Hills too.
Oh,
not More Than Waffles and Waffles.
I'm not even hip.
It's across the street from Larrabee on Lancashire, on the little corner, bruh.
So we're gonna have to check that out.
Yes.
All right. Favorite decade of music?
70s.
I knew you were gonna say that, bro. Name 3 tour essentials. Can't leave home without it when you used to go on tour.
Laptop. Clippers. When I had hair. Laptop, clippers, and what else did I bring? I'm trying to think. See, I ain't been on a tour since 2013, so I'm trying to remember.
Oh, yeah?
Always my laptop, some clippers to cut my own hair because I wasn't trying to find a barbershop.
Yeah.
And
yes, yeah. Your
shoot,
in-ears, good headphones.
good headphones.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Always.
I like it. You've collaborated with a lot of the greats, man. Do you have a dream collaboration that hasn't happened yet?
Sting.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, for sure. I want that gig.
Now that's a dope gig.
Yeah.
Now, I got to play on a recording with Sting.
Oh, really?
That Tommy Sims produced.
Oof.
That
was crazy.
I
love Tommy Sims.
I
love his production and playing too. He's a beast.
Yes, sir. Okay, and last 2 questions. Last question. Duh. 2 questions. 1 question. What would you do if you were not a career musician?
I'd be an investor.
Like it.
I'm into investing now. I'm into watching the stocks, and I'm getting into that now. So I'll be what do you call it when people invest in companies? I can't think of the name, the actual term.
An angel investor?
Yeah, one of those kind of, or venture capitalist kind of. Yeah.
Capitalist. There you go.
Yeah, I like money.
Yeah, amen to that.
So, and I think I have a good vision for what's going to be hot. Like if I see something, I'm like, that's going to be hot. Even sometimes when people don't see it, I'm like, that, and then it ends up blowing up. You know what I'm saying? Just different products. Yeah. So I think I would have been good at doing that.
I like it. Well, man, we got plenty of stuff to talk about on our hike now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm serious too.
Absolutely. Me too. My brother, Gorden Campbell, on the Career Musician. Thank you so much, man.
No, man. Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, you are the man.